Somebody help her. Please. The desperate cry ripped through the emergency room waiting area like a knife. A woman clutched her chest, collapsing onto the cold tile floor, her breath shallow and fading. Panic spread. People screamed. Nurses froze, scanning for a doctor. And then, Dr. Malcolm Hayes stood up. He had been sitting quietly in the corner, wearing jeans and a hoodie after finishing a brutal 14-hour shift at another hospital. He wasn't there as staff tonight. He had come as a visitor, waiting for his younger brother, who had injured his arm in a pickup basketball game. But when the woman fell, instinct took over. Malcolm moved fast, kneeling at her side, checking her pulse, tilting her head back to clear her airway. His calm voice cut through the chaos. She's going into cardiac arrest. I need a crash cart, now. But instead of snapping into action, the triage nurse hesitated, eyes narrowing at him. Sir, step back. Don't touch her. Security. Malcolm blinked in disbelief. I'm a doctor. Cardiothoracic surgery, Johns Hopkins. If we don't act right now, she'll die. But the nurse shook her head sharply. We can't have random people interfering with patients. Wait for the on-call physician. The crowd gasped. The woman's husband screamed, she's not breathing. Do something. Malcolm's hands hovered above her chest, every second ticking like thunder in his ears. He had sworn an oath to save lives, but here he was, being treated like an intruder instead of a healer. And then the woman's body jerked violently. Her eyes rolled back. Malcolm knew he had no choice. He pressed his hands down and began CPR as the entire ER watched in stunned silence. What happens next? Does he save her, or will the hospital staff stop him before it's too late? Security, get him away from her. The nurse's voice cracked, high-pitched with panic. 2 uniformed guards rushed forward, their heavy boots pounding against the sterile floor. But Malcolm didn't stop. His palms pressed rhythmically against the woman's chest. 1, 2, 3, 4. His mind moved faster than the chaos around him. He angled her head, checked her pulse again, and barked out. Somebody hand me an ambu bag. She needs oxygen, now. Still no one moved. The ER staff, who should have been trained for this exact crisis, stood frozen, their eyes darting not at the dying woman but at him. The husband knelt beside them, tears streaming. Please? He's helping her. Let him work. One of the guards stepped closer, hand outstretched to grab Malcolm's shoulder. Sir, step away. You're not authorized. And that's when Malcolm snapped. His voice thundered. I am a doctor. Board certified. 15 years in trauma and cardiothoracic surgery. If you pull me off her, you'll have her death on your hands. The room went silent. Even the guard froze. Malcolm looked down again and his worst fear was confirmed. Her pulse was fading. Without intervention she had minutes, no seconds left. He leaned close, his voice urgent but calm. Ma'am, stay with me. You're not leaving your family tonight. Not on my watch. He began chest compressions again, sweat beading on his forehead. With one swift motion, he tilted her head back and delivered a rescue breath. The husband sobbed beside him, clinging to hope. And finally, one young nurse, trembling but brave enough to move, rolled the crash cart toward them. Malcolm grabbed the defibrillator paddles, his voice commanding, "Clear!" The woman's body jolted. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Her chest heaved, then fell still again. Malcolm's jaw tightened. Again. Clear. Another shock. Another pause. Then a cough. A gasp. Her eyes flickered open. The room exploded in disbelief. She's breathing. Oh my God, she's breathing, the husband cried, clutching her hand. Malcolm let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Relief surged through him, but only for a moment. Because instead of gratitude, he saw suspicion in the staff's faces. The triage nurse crossed her arms. We'll have to verify your credentials. You can't just walk in here and take over procedures. That's against protocol. Malcolm stood slowly, his chest rising and falling with quiet fury. Protocol? His voice was low, dangerous. Your protocol was to watch a woman die while the person who could save her stood right in front of you. The husband rose to his feet, his voice breaking with anger. This man just saved my wife. You were all just staring at her. You should be thanking him. But the nurse's jaw tightened. We'll handle it from here. Security, escort him out. The husband gasped. Are you serious? He's a doctor. He just saved her life. And yet the guards stepped forward again, hesitation in their eyes but following orders. Malcolm didn't flinch. He looked at the husband, then at the woman now breathing steadily and said, I'll leave, but this isn't over. Not by a long shot. As he turned, the whispers grew louder. Some stared at him with awe, others with doubt, and some with the kind of quiet hatred he had known his entire life. The ER doors slid shut behind him, but the story was only beginning. Because what Malcolm didn't know was that someone had recorded everything on their phone. And by morning, the world would see it all. How will the hospital spin the incident? Will Malcolm's name be cleared, or dragged through the mud? By dawn, Malcolm Reed's phone was vibrating non-stop. At first, he thought it was just friends or family checking in. But when he opened his notifications, his jaw dropped. Video after video. Post after post. Someone had uploaded the footage from the ER to social media. Shaky but undeniable. The scene was all there. The woman collapsing, the staff hesitating, the guards closing in, and Malcolm shouting, "I am a doctor," before bringing her back to life. The caption read, "Black doctor saves woman in ER after staff ignores him." By the time Malcolm rubbed his eyes awake, the video had been shared thousands of times. By noon, millions. News outlets were calling it the ER miracle. Comment sections burned with outrage. How could they ignore him? If he were white, they would have listened immediately. This man deserves an award, not handcuffs. Malcolm scrolled, stunned, until his phone buzzed again, this time with a number he knew too well. Dr. Reed? The hospital administrator's voice was clipped, cold. "We need you to come in immediately." When Malcolm arrived, the atmosphere was suffocating. Whispers trailed him in the hallways. Some staff looked away in shame, others glared as if he were the problem. In the boardroom, a long polished table stretched before him. At the head sat Dr. Evelyn Caraway, the hospital director, a woman with sharp features, white hair pulled tightly back, and eyes that gave nothing away. Beside her sat Dr. Simmons, head of the ER, nervously adjusting his glasses. Caraway folded her hands. "Dr. Reed, do you realize the position you've put this hospital in?" Malcolm blinked. "I put the hospital in? A woman was dying in your ER. I saved her life. If anything, you should be thanking me." Simmons cleared his throat. "The optics are complicated. The video makes it appear as though our staff is incompetent, even discriminatory." "Appear?" Malcolm shot back, his voice low but firm. "That's exactly what happened." Caraway's eyes narrowed. "Careful, Dr. Reed. You're walking a thin line. Public opinion may be on your side now, but you breached protocol. You had no authorization to perform medical intervention in that moment." Malcolm leaned forward. "So you'd rather a woman die than admit you were wrong?" The room fell silent. Caraway finally spoke. "We're launching an internal review. Until then, you are suspended from hospital duties effective immediately." The words landed like a punch. "Suspended?" Malcolm's voice cracked with disbelief. "For saving a life?" Caraway didn't flinch. "For jeopardizing the hospital's reputation." That night, Malcolm sat alone in his apartment, staring at the suspension letter. His hands trembled, not from fear but from rage. On TV, the story was everywhere. Some anchors praised him as a hero. Others framed it as a disruptive incident. Then came the twist. The hospital released a statement. "While we value diversity and recognize Dr. Reed's medical background, his actions violated emergency protocols and placed patients at risk. We ask the public to reserve judgment as we investigate further." Malcolm slammed the remote down. "Placed patients at risk? I saved her." But the damage was done. Comment sections began to split. Some called him reckless. Others doubled down in support. The world was now divided into those who saw him as a hero, and those who saw him as a troublemaker. And in the middle of the storm, the woman whose life he had saved, Mrs. Alvarez, requested to see him. Her words would either vindicate him, or seal his fate. Will Mrs. Alvarez stand by Malcolm? Or will the hospital pressure her to remain silent? The knock at Malcolm's apartment door was soft, almost hesitant. When he opened it, he froze. Standing there was Mrs. Alvarez, frail but alive, her daughter at her side. "Dr. Reed," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. You saved me." Her daughter stepped forward. "The hospital wanted us to stay quiet. They offered us free care, even money to not speak to the press. But my mother said no. She wanted you to hear it from her." Mrs. Alvarez reached for his hand. "Don't you let them silence you. You are the reason I'm breathing. The world needs to know that." Malcolm's throat tightened. For the first time since the nightmare began, he felt seen. Truly seen. The next morning, Mrs. Alvarez and her daughter appeared on live television. Cameras flashed, reporters leaned in, and their voices carried across millions of screens. "This man," Mrs. Alvarez said, pointing to Malcolm beside her, is the reason I am alive today. I collapsed in that ER and no one came to help me. He did. If not for him, I would not be standing here. The studio fell silent, except for the sound of anchors scribbling notes and cameras clicking. Dr. Reed didn't just save me, she continued. He showed us all the cost of prejudice, of hesitation, of seeing color before humanity. The hospital scrambled. Press releases, backpedals, sudden new initiatives about inclusion. But the tide had turned. The public wasn't buying it anymore. Malcolm was invited to testify at a health equity hearing. Community leaders rallied around him. And as the pressure mounted, the hospital board had no choice but to reinstate him. This time, not as a silenced doctor in the shadows, but as a respected physician with a platform too powerful to ignore. Even Caraway couldn't escape the fallout. Whispers of her resignation soon followed. On the night of his reinstatement, Malcolm walked out of the hospital's front doors to find a small crowd waiting. Former patients, neighbors, strangers who had seen his story online. They clapped, they cheered, some held up signs that read, "Trust Black Doctors. Heroes wear many faces. Thank you, Dr. Reed." Malcolm stood tall, but his voice broke when he finally spoke. "I didn't ask for this spotlight," he said. "I only did what any doctor should do, save a life. But if this moment teaches us anything, let it be this. Never let prejudice blind you to someone's humanity. Because when we fail to see each other as equals, people suffer. People die." The crowd erupted. Cameras captured every word. And somewhere in the sea of faces, Mrs. Alvarez clasped her daughter's hand and whispered, "That man is a blessing." Malcolm went home that night not with bitterness but with resolve. Because he understood now, his story wasn't just his own. It was a mirror, for every black professional overlooked, every qualified person doubted, every hero dismissed before they were given a chance to prove themselves. And he would never again let anyone write him out of the story he had earned. So I'll ask you this. What would you have done if you were in Malcolm's shoes? Walked away to avoid conflict, or stood firm to prove the truth? One thing's for sure, justice only comes when we refuse to stay silent. If you believe in stories where the underdog rises, where truth wins out against prejudice, and where justice finally speaks louder than hate, then this channel is for you. Subscribe to Racism Exposed TV and join us as we uncover more powerful stories that the world needs to hear. Because sometimes, silence is the greatest danger of all.